how you say a word like too many times and then it like ceases to have all meaning and you're like, that's too weird to be a word? And I know this isn't like an actual word, it's just like an abbreviation, but arc has lost all meaning for me today. Also, the word excited, it's on thin ice. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Evelyn and today we are continuing to talk about 2021 releases. This time, it's the books that I've already had a chance to read. So these are all books that I received ARCs of via NetGalley from the publishers, and thank you so much to all of the publishers for that. Today we're going to be talking about what each book is about, why I requested it or would have requested it, and why I ended up loving it. So let's get into it. So first up we have a Match by Emma Lord, which is set to release tomorrow, January 12th. What's it about? Abby only took a DNA test to show some emotional support for her best friend and possible love interest. It's a bit complicated, Leo. She wasn't expecting to discover a secret older sister. Savannah Tully, an overachieving Instagram star, seems like the perfect daughter Abby's never been. But with only a year and a half and a few towns separating the two girls, the fact that they never knew about each other screams big weird family mystery. So, in order to solve it, they decide to secretly meet up at a summer camp. So, why did I request this arc? I actually did not have to request this arc. Macmillan sent me the link to the NetGalley arc, just pre-approved me for it, which was really cool, and I think it was because I requested and received an arc of Emma Lord's Tweet Cute, which I really, really loved, gave feedback for, so I think I was just on their radar specifically for Emma Lord. Maybe. Either way, it was the first time that a publisher had reached out to me, like, here you go, take this book, and that was really amazing. So thank you so much, Macmillan, for providing me with this arc without me even asking for it. I would have been asking for it anyway because, like I said, I loved Tweet Cute, and one of my favorite things about Tweet Cute was the way that it utilized social media. I think that books about teens shouldn't shy away from talking about social media, and Emma Lord did it really, really well in Tweet Cute, possibly the best that I've ever seen it done in a book. And I knew that she was going to be talking about Instagram and also like DNA matching sort of websites, and so I thought, oh, well, I'm excited to see what she does with a new platform in book form. And then also the fact that it deals with adoption. I myself am not adopted, but I have dealt with adoption as part of like my family story, and so I was really excited to see a book that talked about it and some of the struggles that may or may not come up with adoption. And so it was a very different story than the one that I have been part of, but it still had a lot of heart and I really loved it. So let's get into specifically why I loved this book. So I was not at all disappointed with the way that social media was utilized as a plot thing in this book. That was really cool. I was looking forward to it and it delivered. I also really appreciated the discussion about family, especially the fact that family can take many different shapes and that it's often more complicated than this sort of nuclear structure that's held as like the gold standard for families. There was not only one cute couple for me to root for, there were two cute couples for me to root for in this book. I was just as invested in like the secondary romance as I was in the romance involving the main character, which is sometimes hard for me to do. Sometimes I'm like, I don't care, stop talking about those two, right? But I actually was legitimately rooting for the secondary romance, and I thought the camp setting was really fun. Granted, I've only ever been to summer camp once and I was very young and I don't really remember it very well, so I can't necessarily speak to the accuracy of the camp setting, but I thought it was a fun time. I definitely stayed up way too late finishing this book in one setting, and overall I think you all are really going to love it and you should check it out. Once again, it releases tomorrow. One day wait. Just go for it. Alright, next we have Cast in Firelight by Dana Swift, which is set to release on January 19th. What's it about? Adra and Datin, the heirs of two of Wickery's most powerful kingdoms, have been arranged to be married since childhood. In fact, they haven't actually seen each other since the day they were formally introduced, and Adra slapped or punched, depending on who you ask, Jatin in the face for being rude. And they've been keeping up their rivalry from afar by writing letters back and forth, detailing their respective accomplishments. Jatin is about to return home having already mastered all 9 colors of magic, while Adra's worried she won't be able to prove herself by completing her royal ceremony test. But before the two can be unhappily reunited, criminals make a sudden move on Adra's kingdom of Belwar, and their paths cross in an unexpected way, each having adopted a secret identity to help uncover the source. So, why did I request this book? Cast in Firelight was actually supposed to release back in 2020, and it was one of my most anticipated books of the second half of the year. If you want to see that video, I will link it somewhere. Like I said in that video, I was super interested in the identity shenanigans, one of my favorite tropes, and the colorful magic system intrigued me. When I post those videos, I always tag the authors, and Dana Swift was one of the authors who was just so super nice to me about that video, so excited that her book had been included, and it honestly pushed the book even further up on my radar just because I wanted to support her. She seemed like a genuinely nice person. And then the book got pushed to 2021, and I realized, oh, I have even more time to try and get an arc of this. So I requested it on NetGalley. I actually did do like a little reach out to the publisher, which I don't usually do, and I got my hands on it and I loved it, so let's talk about why. There was so much chemistry between the two main characters. The banter was impeccable. The fact that they thought that they didn't get along, but then the identity shenanigans proved that they did. So good. I was shouting at my phone a little bit, just a little bit, but like in a good way because they were being so dumb, but I just wanted them to realize that they loved each other. Like, you know how it is. Also, I was super impressed by the world building, specifically the magic system, because it's this pretty unique take on a familiar elemental magic system. I was able to figure it out pretty quickly because I had like that reference point of like, oh, this is elemental magic, but it was still unique enough that I was never bored by it. But I still always understood what was going on, which does not always happen in fantasy. Oh, also, I didn't pre-order this, but the pre-order campaign had a library request option, and when I requested it, my library was like, haha, we already ordered it, so that was cool, and I ended up with this really cute art. Hold on. Look at them! Look how cute they are. They're adorable. I ship it so hard, and I think y'all will ship it too, and there's more. It's only the first book, so I'm very excited to have found a couple that I ship, and I'm gonna get more someday. The thing about arcs is I read it and I love it, and then like I have to wait an extra long time for the next thing. It's a gift and a curse in a way, you know? Next we have Down Comes the Night by Allison Saft, which is set to release on March 2nd. So, why did I request this book? Well, it is fantasy with a bisexual main character, and when I found that out, I said, okay, let me see if I can get that arc. I love seeing parts of myself in fiction, and so I try to request and read as many books with bisexual main characters as I can, but specifically the fact that it's fantasy made me excited because I am a fantasy reader primarily at heart, and seeing characters like me who love in the same way that I do on the page just makes my little heart happy. I also knew that the magic system was based off of medical science, which was interesting to me. I wanted to see how that would play out, and it's enemies to lovers, which is a very nice trope that I enjoy reading. Bryn Sutherland is one of the best medics in the Queen's Guard, but her reckless use of magic often gets her into trouble. When her compassion leads her to heal a prisoner, and consequently lose the only lead on a series of soldiers gone missing, she's expelled from her post. But hope arrives in the form of a letter from a reclusive lord. If Rin can help cure a mysterious illness plaguing his servants, it may help prove her worth to the Queen once and for all. Soon after she arrives at the estate high up in the snow-covered mountains, Rin discovers that her patient is no servant. But why would the infamous Hal Cavendish, a deadly magic user and her kingdom's most sworn enemy, be posing as a steward wasting away far from home? Her oath as a healer requires her to help him, but the longer she stays, and the more secrets she uncovers, the more clear it becomes that Hal may be her only ally. They'll have to work together if they have any hope of saving both of their kingdoms. So, why did I love it? First of all of the settings, from the crowded city to the creepy desolation of this house that's on the top of the mountain, and there's like snow, and just so super atmospheric. I had like spine chilling like tingles just at like descriptions of things. The magic system was very unique. I'd never read anything like it, but it was so well incorporated into the world and the story. I had very few questions about it, and when I did, they were pretty much all cleared up. I was not left wondering like, wait a second, how did they do that? That's cheating. The plot was super fun and like mystery centric, so I was never quite sure what was gonna happen or who I could trust, which was great, especially when paired with the whole enemies to lovers situation, which gave me some ever-elusive Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy vibes. Just like a little pinch. Also, something you don't see in YA very much, they have these very nuanced conversations about war. And the fact that they're literally like, we're child soldiers and how that's really messed up, you never see that in YA. Like, I never see that in YA at least. So that was really cool and unexpected and refreshing. And again, I ship these characters so much. Everything on here, everything on this list, super shippable. Next, we have Pride and Premeditation by Tirzah Price, which is set to release on March 9th. What's it about? 17-year-old Lizzie Bennet is desperate to prove that, despite being a woman, she is skilled enough to deserve a position at her father's law firm. Lucky for her, a scandalous murder has shocked London's high society. The very rich Mr. Bingley has been accused of murdering his brother-in-law, but after doing a little bit of digging, Lizzie is convinced that the authorities have imprisoned the wrong person and vows to solve the mystery in order to clear his name. Which would be a lot easier if Fitzwilliam Darcy, family friend and lawyer, would actually let her anywhere near the case. But she still manages to do enough snooping to begin to uncover a much more sinister conspiracy. So, why did I request an arc of this book? If you've been around on my channel for a little bit, you'll know that Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite books of all time, and I really love retelling, so I like collecting Pride and Prejudice retellings. But this is not just a Pride and Prejudice retelling, oh no, it is the first book in a series of Jane Austen-inspired murder mysteries, which just sounds really cool to begin with, and I've been getting back into reading mysteries over the past few years, and I've been getting more into Jane Austen over the past few years, so it was a pretty perfect overlap of my reading tastes, I think. So why did I love this book? I should say that I actually got approved for an audio arc of this book. I wanted it so much I was willing to take a chance on an audio arc, and it was the first time I'd ever received one. I was a little bit dubious, and it was an unfinished version, so it was basically like Siri reading me the book. And usually I have a hard time like staying focused on audiobooks unless I'm like doing laundry or like walking somewhere. I finished this sitting in my bed, just listening to it, not doing anything else. I was so involved in the story and what was happening. The mystery plot was so fun, and it combined pretty seamlessly with the Pride and Prejudice elements. Like, this is possibly one of the best plotted Pride and Prejudice retellings I've ever read, and I'm super excited that it's going to be a series. I even started reading Sense and Sensibility so that I would like better understand the plot of the next book. I love that it was still set in like the Regency area, so there's still all of these like societal rules and propriety that you have to think about, but it had this like fun, old-timey adventure sort of romp thing going on too that I really dug. I always judge Pride and Prejudice adaptations on how they handle Mr. Collins, and I actually enjoyed how Mr. Collins was handled in this version, and I loved all of the fun new Lizzie and Darcy interactions. I just consistently kept wanting to yell, "Just kiss already!" So you know it was good. Last but certainly not least, we have Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzales, which is set to release on March 9th. What is it about? Word has it that if you find yourself in need of help in the romance department, just slip a note explaining your issues and a $5 bill into locker 89. The advice you need will be emailed to you shortly. Darcy Phillips has a reputation for being sweet but quiet, which is why nobody would ever suspect her to be the brains behind Locker 89. Besides, Darcy's own love life isn't going too well. She's in love with her best friend, Brooke, which makes her do stupid things like abuse the power of Locker 89 to kill a potential romance between Brooke and a secret admirer. Which is why when a senior named Brown catches on to her secret, Darcy will do anything to protect her anonymity, including becoming Brown's personal romance coach and talking him through winning back his ex-girlfriend. So, why did I request this arc? Well, once again, I didn't actually have to. I had previously received an arc of Sophie Gonzales' Only Mostly Devastated back in like 2019 and gave feedback for it, so once again, I believe I was just on the list. But it was one of my most anticipated books of 2021, and I would have been requesting it anyway, specifically because of something that I read on the Goodreads page for this book. Sophie Gonzales left this comment on the page explaining her thought process behind writing the book, specifically her thought process behind having a bisexual main character whose main love interest in the story was of the opposite gender. Something that bisexual people commonly experience when interacting with the LGBT community is this sort of idea that if you aren't dating someone of the same gender, then you aren't as valid because your relationship could pass as straight. And that is something that I've struggled with personally and in my writing, because the main characters of the stories I'm writing now are bisexual but end up with guys at the end of their books. And I was worried that people wouldn't want to read my books because of that. They wouldn't see them as actually being queer books. And apparently, Sophie Gonzales got flack for including a bisexual character in Only Mostly Devastated, who, spoiler alert, ends up with somebody of the opposite gender at the end of the book. People were like, why would you even do that? Why even bother? Why even make her bisexual? To which she responded, look at this book where the main romance is that. And I love that, and reading that comment just made me feel so seen. Which leads into the question, why did I love this book? Well, it made me feel super seen. As a bisexual person, also as a teenager, as a teenage girl, as somebody who ends up giving a lot of relationship advice, like, I just love Darcy and related to her so much. There were so many queer characters in this book aside from Darcy as well, including her older sister, who is a trans thrift flipping YouTuber and also like my personal hero. There's an entire sequence that takes place at Disneyland, like as if this book weren't already perfect for me. I wanted to just like scream about it to somebody, like, oh my god, so cute, my favorite place, but it was like 2 in the morning when I was reading those scenes because I stayed up like way too late reading this book because I like could not put it down, so I had no one to yell to because everyone else was asleep. There was actual valid relationship advice snuck in there, so you learn about healthy communication skills along the way, which I think is really cool and lots of teens could benefit from, including yours truly. And something that was really cool and that I think a lot of books fail to do is I felt like the main character and her love interest could have legitimately like just been friends. Like, they enjoyed spending time with each other, they liked each other, it wasn't just like romantic or sexual chemistry that was bringing them together. And I appreciate that. Like, I want to read about couples who actually like each other. I want to actually like the people I date, you know? So, again, that made them really shippable. And I haven't really thought too hard about it, but I already said all of the couples in this video were super shippable, and I think that probably applies to all of them. I think I just like couples who are like that. Maybe it's because my first ship that I really shipped was Percy and Annabeth, and my standards are just really high. Who knows? So there you have it. Those are all of the books releasing sometime in 2021 that I have already read and loved. I've already got more arcs to read, which means there are probably going to be more videos like this in the future, which is exciting. And if you don't want to miss them, you should click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos. I've put all the titles of the books I mentioned today in the description, as well as links to somewhere where you could purchase them, so if you are interested in pre-ordering them, don't forget to check that out. And if you like this video, remember to please leave a big thumbs up. It really helps me out. With that being said, my name is Evelyn. I make new videos every magical Monday, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.